Collins siblings had never been in trouble, as documented by the Pacific Northwest Search and Rescue Association. Eliza, 28, and Matthew Collins, 26, were experienced backcountry hikers, having completed the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019 and numerous weekend expeditions throughout the Cascade Range. Their equipment was certified wilderness grade, and both had completed advanced wilderness survival courses through the North Cascades Institute. Rangers at the Glacier Peak Wilderness Area confirmed the siblings had filed appropriate permits for their planned 4-day circumnavigation route of Glacier Peak on September 12, 2022. According to the permit application, their intended route followed established trails with designated campsites at Kennedy Hot Springs, Boulder Creek, and White Pass before returning to the North Fork Sauk River trailhead. Phone records obtained during the subsequent investigation revealed that Eliza Collins made a final call to her roommate, Jessica Winters, at 6:42 p.m. on September 13, 2022. During this 3-minute conversation, Collins reported they had reached their first campsite at Kennedy Hot Springs and mentioned unusual weather conditions. Winters later provided testimony to Snohomish County Sheriff's Detective Marcus Reynolds. She said the sky had turned this strange color, kind of greenish purple, and that Matt thought they might need to adjust their route if a storm was coming in. But she wasn't worried. She sounded normal, even excited about being out there. This call represented the final verified communication from either of the Collins siblings. The National Weather Service confirmed unusual atmospheric conditions in the Glacier Peak Wilderness on September 13th to 14th, 2022, with electrical storms and sudden temperature drops recorded at the nearest weather station. Precipitation levels registered at 3.8 inches over an 18-hour period. When neither sibling reported to their respective workplaces on September 17, 2022, as scheduled, and multiple calls to their mobile devices went unanswered, Jessica Winters contacted the Snohomish County Sheriff's Department at 7:28 p.m. to report the siblings as overdue. According to the initial missing persons report filed by Deputy Laura Chen, the siblings were categorized as experienced hikers, potentially weather-delayed, rather than immediately presumed missing. This classification resulted in a 24-hour monitoring period before active search protocols were initiated. The formal search operation commenced at 08 user hours on September 19, 2022, coordinated by the Snohomish County Volunteer Search and Rescue Team, in conjunction with National Park Service Rangers. Incident Commander Timothy Holloway deployed 4 ground teams to cover the Collins planned route, working outward from the trailhead where their vehicle, a 2018 Subaru Outback, remained parked. Aerial surveillance was requested but denied due to persistent low cloud cover and intermittent rainfall, conditions that continued throughout the 7-day search operation. Search Team Alpha, led by Ranger Constance Meyer, located the Collins' first campsite at Kennedy Hot Springs on September 20th. According to Meyer's field report, site showed signs of organized camping consistent with experienced backpackers. 2-person tent was properly secured, cooking equipment stored according to bear safety protocols, all equipment present and in working order. No indications of wildlife interference or struggle. The campsite appeared to have been vacated normally for continuation of the planned hike. Search teams recovered no personal electronics at the site. GPS tracking of the siblings' mobile phones proved unsuccessful, with the last recorded ping from both devices occurring at 7:15 p.m. on September 13th from a tower servicing the Kennedy Hot Springs area. The remaining 3 ground teams methodically covered the planned route and adjacent areas with negative results. Cadaver dogs were deployed on September 23rd, but detected no human remains within the search perimeter. Weather conditions continued to hamper efforts, with search operations suspended twice due to safety concerns during lightning storms. The search was officially suspended on September 26, 2022, after covering 87% of the primary search grid and finding no additional evidence of the Collins siblings' movement beyond their first campsite. The case was reclassified from search and rescue to missing persons investigation under the jurisdiction of Detective Marcus Reynolds. Over the subsequent 4 months, Reynolds conducted interviews with 27 individuals connected to the Collins siblings, including family members, co-workers, and other hikers who had been in the Glacier Peak wilderness during the same period. No evidence of foul play, suicidal ideation, or intentional disappearance was established. Both siblings maintained stable employment. Eliza as an environmental engineer with Cascade Watershed Consultants, and Matthew as a high school science teacher at Everett North High School. Bank records showed no unusual financial activity, and border crossing checks confirmed neither sibling had left the country. The investigation was designated inactive pending new information on January 18, 2023. 3 years and 42 days after their disappearance, on October 25, 2025, Snohomish County Sheriff's Department received notification from Dr. Eleanor Vargas, attending physician at Cascade Neurological Institute in Seattle, Washington. The report stated the 2 patients had been admitted at 22:17 hours on October 24th, having been transported via ambulance from a remote cabin in the Mount Baker Snoqualmie National Forest, approximately 38 miles northeast of the siblings' last known location. The patients were identified through fingerprint matching as Eliza and Matthew Collins. According to the intake report filed by emergency physician Dr. Jimenez, both siblings presented with severe malnutrition, vitamin D deficiency, muscle atrophy, and unusual scarring patterns on their forearms and lower legs. Their combined medical evaluation documented body weights at 62% and 58% of expected norms, respectively, consistent with prolonged inadequate caloric intake. Tox screens were negative for common substances, though Dr. Jimenez noted anomalies in blood chemistry that warranted further testing. Both siblings were initially nonverbal and exhibited signs of psychological trauma, including avoidance behaviors, hypervigilance, and extreme photosensitivity. The discovery of the Collins siblings prompted the immediate reopening of their case by the Snohomish County Sheriff's Department. Detective Reynolds, who had maintained the original case file, was assigned as primary investigator. His initial interview attempt with the siblings at Cascade Neurological Institute on October 26, 2025, proved unsuccessful as both patients remained unresponsive to questioning. Dr. Vargas, serving as attending physician, provided Reynolds with preliminary medical information. Both patients exhibit significant cognitive impairment consistent with traumatic experience and possible prolonged isolation. They respond to basic commands but have not engaged in meaningful verbal communication with staff. However, between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m., nursing staff have documented both patients speaking in their sleep. The sleep-talking episodes were recorded beginning October 26 as part of the medical documentation process. Transcripts obtained by Detective Reynolds revealed both siblings whispering identical phrases at precisely synchronized intervals, despite being housed in separate rooms. The recorded statements included repeated mentions of the lights behind the mountain, voices in the water, and they only come at night. Dr. Vargas noted this synchronized speech pattern as unprecedented in medical literature and suggestive of shared traumatic experience resulting in unusual neurological synchronization. Concurrent with the medical evaluation, a forensic team led by Sergeant Thomas Wu was dispatched to the cabin where the siblings had been found. The structure was identified as an abandoned Forest Service monitoring station, last officially used in 2015. Located at coordinates 48 Corey to 4123 N, 120-2947 W, the cabin sat at 4,000 feet elevation in heavily forested terrain, accessible only by a decommissioned fire service road, requiring specialized four-wheel drive vehicles or on foot via unmarked trails. The cabin itself measured 16 x24s with a single-room interior, basic kitchen facilities, and a wood stove. Forensic examination documented modifications to the structure, including the boarding of all windows, with 2 thick plywood secured with 3 Tor steel screws, reinforced door hinges, and an elaborate barricade system constructed from furniture and metal storage containers. The team recovered 147 distinct items cataloged as evidence, including a makeshift calendar scratched into the cabin's eastern wall marking 1,137 days, a journal written in an unidentified script, and a collection of carved wooden figures arranged in concentric circles on the cabin floor. Food supplies within the cabin consisted primarily of preserved items with manufacture dates from 2023-2025, suggesting regular acquisition of provisions. However, no receipts or packaging information allowed tracing of purchase locations. A collection of hunting tools, including hand-fashioned spears and snares, indicated the siblings had supplemented their diet with small game. Most significantly, Sergeant Wu's team documented extensive scratches on the cabin's interior walls, floor, and ceiling, initially presumed to be defensive markings but later determined to form a complex pattern when mapped in 3 dimensions. On October 29, 2025, the investigation expanded when Forest Service Ranger Julia Martin reported the discovery of a secondary site approximately 0.8 miles northwest of the cabin. The site contained a circular arrangement of stones measuring 24 feet in diameter with an elaborate design of intersecting lines carved into the exposed bedrock at its center. Soil samples from this location revealed trace elements not typically found in the region's geology, prompting analysis by the University of Washington's Department of Earth Sciences. Preliminary findings indicated the presence of minerals consistent with meteoric material, though the official report noted these results as inconclusive pending further testing. The first breakthrough in the investigation occurred on November 3, 2025, when Matthew Collins began responding to direct questions from Dr. Vargas during a scheduled cognitive assessment. According to the session transcript, when asked about their location for the past 3 years, Collins stated, "We had to hide. They were hunting us after we saw them come through." When asked to clarify who they were, Collins became visibly distressed, exhibiting elevated heart rate and perspiration. He repeated the phrase, "Not human, not human, not human," 17 consecutive times before medical staff administered a sedative. During the same session, when shown photographs of the stone circle discovered near the cabin, Collins exhibited extreme physiological distress, including pupillary dilation, hyperventilation, and muscle spasms. Before losing consciousness, he stated, "The door. We tried to close it. We thought we did. But they're still coming through." Eliza Collins began limited verbal communication on November 7th, though her statements largely echoed her brother's with minor variations. When interviewed by Detective Reynolds, she provided additional context regarding the initial disappearance. "The storm wasn't natural, the colors were wrong, The air tasted like metal. We followed the lights, thinking they were from a ranger station. That's when we saw them coming through the tear. When pressed for clarification regarding the tear, she described a place where the air split open near the summit of Glacier Peak. Her account included descriptions of tall shadows moving like broken puppets and voices that felt like ice in your skull. Both siblings independently referenced the same timeline. Approximately 6 hours after making camp at Kennedy Hot Springs, they observed unusual atmospheric phenomena and attempted to relocate to a more secure position. After witnessing what they described as entities emerging from a distortion in the air, they fled northward, eventually finding the abandoned Forest Service cabin approximately 2 weeks later, after a period of continuous movement through wilderness areas. The Collins siblings' account indicated they remained at the cabin for the majority of their missing 3 years, venturing out only during daylight hours for essential supplies. They claimed to have avoided contact with other humans due to fear that they could be wearing people-like clothes, and described elaborate routines of warding symbols and protective measures they believed necessary for survival. Both consistently maintained that the entities they encountered could only be perceived from the corner of your eye and were drawn to electronic devices, explaining their abandonment of all technology. Medical assessment by psychiatric specialist Dr. Kenneth Huang documented the siblings as suffering from shared psychosis with elements of paranoid delusion and PTSD, though he noted the unusual synchronicity of their sleep talking as falling outside standard diagnostic criteria. Brain imaging studies revealed abnormal activity patterns in both siblings' pineal glands and unusual synchronization between their respective limbic systems, phenomena Dr. Huang acknowledged could not be explained by current medical understanding. The investigation took an unexpected turn on November 12, 2025, when forensic analysis of the journal recovered from the cabin yielded partial decryption of its contents. Dr. Anita Choudhury, linguistics expert from the University of Washington, identified the script as a sophisticated substitution cipher based on mathematical principles rather than language substitution. The decoded sections contained detailed observations of celestial positions, times, and locations where the siblings claimed to have witnessed breaches or incursions. Most significantly, the journal contained precise measurements and coordinates for 23 locations throughout the North Cascades region. Detective Reynolds coordinated with Forest Service personnel to investigate these locations, beginning with the 3 most accessible sites. The first 2 coordinates revealed no unusual findings, but the third location, situated at 48 mu 19N, 120 U 1137 W near the original disappearance site, contained physical evidence corroborating elements of the Collins account. Rangers discovered a circular area approximately 40 feet in diameter where vegetation had died, and the soil showed unusual crystalline formations. Samples analyzed by the FBI's Forensic Laboratory in Quantico, Virginia, identified anomalies in the material's molecular structure that the examining scientist described as inconsistent with known terrestrial minerals. By November 20th, 2025, medical staff at Cascade Neurological Institute documented marked improvement in both siblings' physical condition, with weight gain approaching healthy parameters and increased verbal communication. However, their psychological state remained fragile, with both exhibiting extreme fear responses to darkness, electronic devices, and certain geometric patterns. The synchronized sleep-talking episodes continued nightly, with transcripts showing increasingly complex and distressing content. On November 23rd, the Collins siblings were interviewed together for the first time by Detective Reynolds and Dr. Vargas. During this session, they collaboratively sketched detailed images of what they described as the entities and the tear in reality they claimed to have witnessed. The drawings depicted elongated, angular figures with disproportionate limbs and no discernible facial features. When asked about the stone circle discovered near the cabin, both explained it as a closing mechanism they had constructed based on instructions they received in dreams. The most disturbing revelation came when Eliza Collins rolled up her sleeve to reveal an intricate pattern of scarification extending from wrist to shoulder. We had to mark ourselves so they couldn't take us. The symbols are protection. We learned them from the dreams. Matthew Collins displayed identical markings on his own arms and added, "We've been talking to them while we sleep. Not the ones that came through, but the ones trying to fix the tear. They've been teaching us." A breakthrough in the investigation occurred on December 2nd, 2025, when a team led by Sergeant Wu and accompanied by Forest Service personnel located what appeared to be the original incident site based on coordinates derived from the Collins Journal. The location, situated at 10,541 feet elevation on the northeastern face of Glacier Peak, contained a semicircular arrangement of basaltic rock with unusual vitrification patterns consistent with exposure to extreme heat. Geologist Dr. Martin Weber, consulting for the investigation, indicated the formation showed characteristics consistent with temperatures exceeding 2,700 degrees Celsius, well beyond what naturally occurring forest fires or lightning strikes could produce. Environmental testing at the site revealed radiation levels approximately 3.8 times background and unusual electromagnetic anomalies that interfered with testing equipment. Most significantly, several recording devices placed at the location captured audio phenomena described by acoustic analyst Dr. Sophia Kim as language-like patterns occurring at frequencies at the threshold of human hearing. When these recordings were played for the Collins siblings during a controlled session on December 5th, both exhibited immediate physiological responses, including elevated heart rates, pupillary dilation, and spontaneous nosebleeds. After hearing the recordings, Matthew Collins became more communicative than at any previous point, stating, "They're still coming through. It's happening again. The cycle is starting over." When asked to explain, he described a 73-day cycle during which the tear would temporarily seal before reopening. According to his account, the siblings had witnessed this cycle occurring multiple times during their 3-year ordeal and had been attempting to permanently seal the breach using methods they claimed to have learned through their synchronized dreams. The investigation reached a critical juncture on December 10th, 2025, when a multi-agency team, including representatives from the FBI, Forest Service, and scientific consultants, established a monitoring station at the Glacier Peak site. At precisely on June 2:17 a.m. on December 11th, instruments at the location recorded a massive electromagnetic pulse, accompanied by localized gravitational anomalies and a brief temperature spike of 4,162 degrees Celsius. Satellite imaging captured what analysts described as atmospheric distortion, lasting approximately 8.7 seconds before equipment failures occurred across all monitoring systems. Concurrently, at Cascade Neurological Institute, both Collins siblings experienced simultaneous seizures, despite being in separate rooms on different floors of the facility. Medical staff documented identical patterns of neural activity in both patients, described by neurologist Dr. Vargas as physiologically impossible under conventional understanding. During these seizures, Both siblings spoke in unison, reciting what linguists later identified as complex mathematical equations, interspersed with the repeated phrase, "The door is opening again." Following this incident, federal authorities established a 5-mile exclusion zone around the Glacier Peak site, citing environmental hazards as the official justification. The Collins siblings were transferred to an undisclosed government facility on December 13, 2025, under the supervision of the Department of Defense's Advanced Research Projects Division. Official statements indicated this transfer was for specialized medical treatment, though all subsequent information regarding their condition has been classified. The official investigation remains open but restricted to personnel with security clearances above civilian law enforcement access. Detective Reynolds' final entry in the publicly available case file, dated December 15, 2025, notes, "Case transferred to federal jurisdiction per Executive Order 4392. All evidence and documentation surrendered to DoD representatives on this date. Local investigation formally suspended." Unofficial reports from personnel at Cascade Neurological Institute indicate that in the final night before their transfer, the Collins siblings were recorded speaking in their synchronized sleep pattern for over 3 hours continuously. According to a nursing assistant who requested anonymity, the content of this final recorded session included precise coordinates for 78 locations across the globe, complex mathematical formulas, and repeated warnings about the next opening scheduled to occur on March 24, 2026. To date, no official explanation has been provided for the Collins siblings' 3-year disappearance, their physical and psychological condition upon recovery, or the unusual phenomena documented at the Glacier Peak site. Public records. Requests filed by various media organizations have been denied under national security exemptions. The only statement from family members came from the siblings' mother, Catherine Collins, who told reporters on December 20th, 2025, "My children found something in those mountains that no human was meant to see. I don't believe we'll ever get them back. Not really. The people in those hospital beds might look like Eliza and Matt, but whatever they experienced has changed them into something else entirely." The cabin where the Collins siblings were discovered has since been demolished by Forest Service personnel, and access to the surrounding area restricted under the pretext of environmental remediation. The Stone Circle site was excavated and removed to an undisclosed location. All journal entries, recordings, and physical evidence collected during the investigation remain classified, with access restricted to individuals with cosmic level security clearance or higher. As of the time of this report, February 2026, monitoring continues at 23 sites identified in the Collins siblings' journal. According to sources within the scientific community connected to the investigation, unusual astronomical alignments predicted in the siblings' mathematical formulas have been confirmed by independent verification. The siblings themselves remain in government custody, reportedly continuing their synchronized sleep-talking pattern with increasing complexity and specificity. Their current condition and the ultimate fate of the phenomena they claim to have witnessed remain unknown.